This video is for anyone who wants to understand what type of sources can be used to update a Wikipedia page for your company. I'm going to show you some of the ways that Wikipedia's community vets sources and the difference between a well-sourced article and one that's poorly written. I'll also show you how to check if your company's page is reliant on questionable sources. Right, so the first place we're going to start off is the main guideline regarding sourcing on Wikipedia, which is this reliable sources. So this is quite a long guideline, and there are lots of sub-guidelines that go into a lot of details about the types of sources that Wikipedia wants to see. But the main point that I want to raise today is that what Wikipedia looks for is that every detail in a Wikipedia page should be supported by reliable published sources. And for a company page in particular, what Wikipedia editors think are reliable published sources are secondary sources like journalistic coverage from reputable outlets and things like peer-reviewed journal articles. So those are the types of things that they are ideally looking for. Now, you might be wondering, yes, I've got lots of media coverage, but which of these outlets are actually considered to be Wikipedia appropriate? Which ones do editors actually accept on the site? Good news, there is a wonderful resource called the Perennial Sources List that you can check to see whether the types of outlets that have covered you are accepted on Wikipedia, and if they are, what sorts of content from those outlets it can be used on the site and how can that be used. So for a whole range of different types of outlets, Wikipedia editors have put together some notes about whether they're accepted or not, how they're used, and any additional links that might be useful to you. So you can look through and see, do you have coverage from the Associated Press? Yes. Okay. Well, yes, we can definitely use that. Do you perhaps have a blog and you're wondering if that can be used? Then you can read on here and see that blogs are not generally accepted on Wikipedia. So all of this is super helpful. I definitely recommend this as a resource when you're looking into your sources and wondering about what can be used. Now, the next thing to think about is your Wikipedia page already supported by good sources, or are there any problems with the sourcing, and how can you tell that? Well, one of the ways that you can tell is by looking at the page and seeing if there's any kind of flag at the top of the article. Obviously, this one has a very clear flag. There's obviously a major problem here with the sourcing. It says that it relies on a single source, that it relies excessively on references to primary sources. And we can see that the only reference on this page is to the website for this company. So that's clearly not acceptable. What Wikipedia editors want, as I mentioned, is for there to be journalistic coverage and for that to form the main bulk of the references for the article. So if this was your company, you'd want to go and look to see what media coverage you have and start to look at adding those into the page and using them to support some of the content here and add new content as well. Sometimes the flags on an article are slightly different, but still can point to a sourcing issue. So for example, on this page, we see a flag that says that there's content that's written like an advertisement. And this really can come about due to the sourcing. So sometimes there are just the types of sources that are being used mean that the content ends up swaying towards being more promotional. So when we get down into these references, a lot of these look like they're actually derivative of press releases or maybe reprints of press releases and tend to be more kind of announcement focused. And that means that the content that can be used from them tends to be more promotional, more focused on things that are of interest to the company rather than being things that have been highlighted by an independent journalist. So in general, what you want to avoid is any references that are press releases, any that are derivative of press releases. So if a journalist has just essentially taken the press release statements and slightly rewritten them, maybe just even reprinted them as they are and added a little bit of context, what you really want to have is coverage that's written by a journalist that's added some more context to the story, that's done some fact checking, that hasn't just taken that information and written it up. So here's an example of an article that actually has really quality sourcing. So this is one of the more high quality Wikipedia articles, which you can tell by this little green dot here on the right. And if we scroll on down to the references, you can immediately see the difference. So the types of outlets that we have here, we have a lot of New York Times, we've got some Wall Street Journal, and just looking at the headings, that the titles of these pieces, we can immediately see the difference. These are not announcements about new products. These are not announcements about revenues and things like that. These are pieces that are much more detailed and in-depth, and that go into more background information about this company. And these are the ideal sorts of sourcing that you want to use for your company Wikipedia page, from these high quality outlets, and that are definitely independent from the company and written by a journalist.